Welcome to live session number, I think that's 179. And tonight I'm going to be delivering the free 15 minutes of free consulting to Carla Bandeira. She was the second winner of the free consulting during the closing webinar of our workshop, Engineer 2023 Journey. And if you haven't participated in the workshop, yeah, that's too bad. It finished last week. And the next workshop, I don't know when is going to be the next one. Perhaps just in the new financial year. So keep an eye in my profile, in my Instagram, in my YouTube, and I will let you know when the next workshop, where I'm going to teach you everything you need to know to start your validation process. Which is probably going to be around July, August, okay? And first of all, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we are holding this event. I am in Brisbane, so that's the Jagera and the Turrbal people, and pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. And also acknowledging any First Nations people that are participating or watching the replay of this video. Good. So I believe that Carla is already online here on Instagram, and then I'll ask her to introduce herself, the type of engineering, where she's from, those sort of things. And then we're going to start with our free session. And after that, we'll keep going with answering some more questions about the validation process. So we'll contact her, send them in the comments, and I will be reading those questions and I'll be answering those comments as well. And if you think that this live session is worthwhile, if the subject interests you, don't forget to hit the like button, so I know that the content is being relevant. Hey, good evening, Carla. How are you?
I'm well, Gerson. How are you?
Good, thanks. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Can you hear me? I am also Taro.
I can hear you very well.
Good.
Yeah. So, just for us to understand a little bit more about you, if you could introduce, please, yourself and the type of engineering that I know already, but the audience doesn't, and where you're from and where you are now, and what's your plan for the future, please.
Yeah, well, my name is Carla Bandeira. I'm from São Paulo, Brazil. In Brazil, I'm a safety engineer and also environmental engineer. I got here in Sydney last June. So June last year, and I got here as a tourist, actually.
All right.
With no plan, no money, and I could change my visa for student visa. I finished my English, and now I'm on a work visa. So the next pathway is validate my environmental engineering degree, because I am also safety advisor here.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the nomination. So the environmental engineering will be the second chance that I get.
Well, congratulations. Yeah, especially in Sydney, there's a lot of work happening. So and certainly safety advisor, safety officer, even obviously for environmental officers and environmental advisors, it's a very in high demand profession. So well done. You've got two options to choose from.
Yeah, and here I was a lucky person because I could move my career to Australia. So since I got here, I started to work as a EHS coordinator. So Australia was open for me, and now I'm an EHS specialist.
Yeah, that's very good. Yeah, always. Well, obviously, I work with roads and infrastructure projects, and environmental and safety and quality. It's always high in our agenda. We've got very good safety environmental officers in the department. And yeah, I learned so much with them. And we project managers, we managers, we gotta thank you guys because you keep us out of jail. That's what I usually joke with,
Yes,
with the
yes.
safety environmental advisors.
Yeah, I
Yeah, they
see
say,
you.
yeah, yeah, you need to fix this, don't do this, don't do that, you gotta do this right, and then
Yeah,
you're out of jail. So yeah, that's good. That's what we want to hear.
including me. I stay
Yes,
out of jail as well.
yes, yes. All right. Now that's very good, Carla. And yes, so you probably have some questions. So let's
Yeah.
hear the questions and share the answers with everybody.
Oh, great. My first question is we have 16 competence to
Yeah.
use in your episode, but I'm not sure about how many competence, I mean, how many pillars I should use and the item 3.1, the Code of Ethics from Engineers Australia.
Yeah. So that's a very good question. And PE 3.1 about code of ethics, ethical behavior, and professional accountability, those sort of things. It's a really important competency, and you should be using most of the, or if not all of the four pillars in your examples. And you will see, obviously, you join my mentoring program, you will see that in the videos that I talk about
Yeah.
3.1, I give so many examples because sometimes it's difficult when you read the code of ethics document. Sometimes it's difficult for you to understand what examples you can use. But when you talk about a practice competently, that's a very important one, which means that you can just practice according to your competency. So if you are an environmental and safety engineer, obviously you can act and practice under those safety and environmental engineering. If somebody asks you somehow, oh, while you're here in this work, I've got this geotechnical issue here, and I know that you understand about erosion and sediment control because environmental engineers they understand about erosion and sediment control. And some people may think that because you understand about erosion, they may ask you to do some geotechnical work,
Yeah.
and then obviously sometimes you gotta say politely, sorry, but that's not my competency. Even though I understand about erosion, but I'm not a geotechnical engineer. I'm not qualified as a geotechnical professional. So you need to talk to somebody else. Obviously, that's just one example, which goes outside of your competency. So that's, for example, pillar number one about the practice competently. And then there's obviously the ethics when especially, I don't know if you worked with public or government works,
Yeah.
or even outside of government. There's a lot of ethical challenges that sometimes you are going to be faced with when you're requesting for quotes. Usually, you need to be very transparent. You need to be equal. You need to be providing the same information to all suppliers, so it's fair to everybody. There's also the pillar about social economics and etc., which is about creation of jobs and fostering local employment, those sort of things. And there's a pillar of sustainability and safety and those sort of things that in your case you have plenty of examples to use for. So
Yeah.
it's always a good idea to use the four pillars in 3.1, especially because when you're using the four pillars, you can then number many paragraphs under the 3.1. 3.1 is a competency that I usually advise that you should have at least 15 paragraph numbers in your summary statement there. So, because it's a very important part that the assessors in Engineers Australia, they will consider. because they want to make sure that you have a very ethical behavior and you are aware, obviously, about practicing competently in terms of social concerns, in terms of environmental and sustainability issues as well.
I see. Thank you, Gerson.
Yeah.
The other question is, in Brazil, usually we don't have so many opportunities to work as an environmental engineer. So sometimes we decided to do another engineering, like safety engineering, just to get more opportunities and work in different type of companies. But doing this, how you have a legal requirement, I mean, depends of the size of the company, number of employees, and level of risk.
Yeah.
The company prefers hire someone as a safety engineer and keep the environmental engineering in the second plan, so in the same whole. And it's quite frequent in Brazil. So I have this problem now. I have some letters from companies as a safety engineer, but I was doing environmental engineering as well, some environmental tasks. And when I say some environmental tasks, I'm saying that I was taking care more about the management of environmental aspects and impacts. So in Brazil, I used to work for a hospital and I was hired as a safety engineer, but I had to manage consumption of water, consumption of electricity, waste management, and I have this, but I'm not sure if it's good enough to use as an episode of career or to use this type of letter as a reference for environmental engineer.
Yeah, sorry, just going back to, I had a look at the environmental engineer. I'm just going to read out the environmental engineer, environmental engineer, ANZ And the definition, when you look at the definition here, it says here, the environmental engineer assesses the impact on air, water, soil, and noise levels in the vicinity of engineering projects, plans and designs equipment and processes for the treatment and safe disposal of waste material, and assesses what may cause problems for the environment in the long term. So, in terms of depending, first of all, if your letter, and I saw your letter, that says safety engineer, however, sometimes the title doesn't matter too much. It's going to matter what are the activities that the company said that you performed. And obviously, because you are graduated environmental engineer, so that's probably the reason why you don't need to worry about, because even though you were hired as a safety engineer, but you were performing safety, environmental, and quality duties, which even in Australia, they go always hand in hand. They call here QES, the quality, environmental, and safety. So, and many people here, they are QES advisors. Because here in Australia, for you to work as a safety and environmental, you know that, doesn't necessarily need to be an engineer. So if you are a qualified environmental engineer working with safety, environmental, and quality, that's fine, especially because the letter has those activities. If the letter just had the safety activities and then you were describing environmental activities, it's a bit difficult because the assessor, they need to verify that you qualified as you are, They need then to verify what you've written in your report. That's the second piece of evidence. And also very important to verify what the supervisor said or what the supervisor confirmed. And with your letter, the supervisor confirmed that you did many activities in terms of environmental activities. So even though the title was safety engineer, but because the letter has several environmental activities, shouldn't really be a problem. So, and it says here, plans and designs, equipment and processes for the treatment or and safe disposal of waste material. So waste material, the only thing that we need to just be a little bit careful about is how you can demonstrate some engineering fundamentals behind those activities. So just think about your experiences and examples, because sometimes, and remember what I said during the live session, it needs to be a little bit complex experiences. So you can demonstrate that you utilized your engineering fundamentals, that you utilized some engineering judgment, and even some calculations and some analysis. So even though, and we're going to discuss this, we can discuss that in our catch-up, and we're going to see more details. But you just need to think that even though potentially it could be an environmental experience, we just need to evaluate if that experience was complex enough for you to be able to demonstrate all the 16 competencies in that. Because especially the competencies under PE1, they are a lot about fundamentals and judgment and engineering skills. So if the example is not very complex, you may find some difficulties to demonstrate what fundamentals of environmental engineering did you use in that example. If it was just, for example, I'm not sure, but if you were monitoring consumption of water against a benchmark, so you had a benchmark, let's say 10. If you consume 12, it's above, so you need to do something. If you consume less, it's all right. So it is something, but it may not be very complex. So we just need to just consider that and evaluate if it is complex enough or if it's not complex enough.
I see. So if I am following you, doesn't matter if it's just waste management or consumption of water, since that I can keep all the 16 competencies in my episode. I can demonstrate all of them.
Yeah, it's very important to demonstrate all 16 competencies in every single of the 3 career episodes.
I see. And do you think that working with ISO 40001 could be an example as well? I mean, sometimes we only have experience with ISO 14001, which means environmental management system. So in your experience, oh my God, in your experience, do you think that, I mean, did you know someone that could get the validation using experience with ISO or management systems?
My opinion is that implementation of quality systems should be always the last resort, only if you don't have any other example. However, if by implementing, and that's why we need to know a little bit more details. If you have a good experience in implementing ISO 14001, for example, where as part of the implementation, you did some analysis and you've identified that some processes were not going to be good enough for certification or even to keep the certification, and then you had to put something in place to improve that process or to fix that process or implement a new process to be compliant with the standard, then probably you can focus in this particular one. The implementation of the 14001 standards is just an accessory, but then the main focus is that you've identified, let's say that you've analyzed to implement 14001 standard, and then you've identified an environmental problem, and you then developed something or you designed something, you implemented something to fix that environmental problem or process, so the company could be certified or could keep the certification. And then you focus on the resolution of that environmental problem to guarantee either the certification or to keep the certification. So depends on the focus that it is. It's still about implementation of ISO 14001, but you don't focus on the implementation. You focus on how you identified an environmental problem or environmental process problem and how you solved that problem. So it's just a focus that is going to be different. Because if you focus just in implementation, I even mentioned yesterday with Wagner that it's more like a technologist level, and Engineers Australia don't really like too much. I don't know if you remember, but during the workshop I showed some videos from Leila, a civil engineer, and she pretty much worked her whole professional life in Brazil in quality, and she didn't really have a lot of other examples. So she submitted the quality one and said, "No, yeah, I think it's not going to be good," but she submitted anyway. And it was a good example. It was implementation of 9001 in multiple building sites. The company she was working was building high rises, and she wanted to standardize the construction processes in terms of quality, total quality management system. And I said to her that I don't think it's a good idea. But she said, no, I don't have any other. She said, well, all right. And that's it. Engineers Australia said that it was not good. So she had to then go back, and she found a road design project that she did when she was studying. And she wrote about that. And then she passed straight away. So, and that's just unfortunate that here in Australia, the implementation of quality management systems, regardless if it is for the environmental engineer, for the civil engineer, mechanical engineer, production engineer, they don't consider to be for professional engineers. So, but if you have a good example within the implementation of the ISO 14001, then we can work to focus in the identification of the problem, the options that you had to come up with to solve the problem, and then the implementation of that to ensure that the certification was going to be okay, or to ensure that you kept the certification.
I see. Gerson, can I ask, may I ask you the last question?
Yeah.
Do you have time?
Yes, I do. I always have time for my students.
Okay, thank you so much. I will try to get the professional title.
Yes.
But for this, do you think it's a good idea use an experience from my intern time? I mean, I had one experience as an intern, environmental engineering intern. So in that moment, I only identified environmental aspects and impact. Nothing more than that, because I was intern. Do you think it's I mean, for a professional title, is it a good idea use something like that in our intern time?
Yeah, when I see engineers using the internship experience, uh, they actually did the work like an engineer because they were always being supervised. So if you, but one thing that I usually see engineers in Australia asking is that usually when there is a supervised internship, especially with in the university or while you are at the university, sometimes they ask to see the report of that internship experience. So
Yes,
I don't know if
have. I have the file. I could print one page
okay,
because the document is big. It's more than 100 page.
yeah,
So it's too much. But it was for a private company as
yeah,
a intern, internship. And but the experience, in my view, could not be so complex, because I wasn't professional.
yeah. Any particular example that you remember that you did?
Yes, yes. I was when I was hired as an intern, I was in charge to do gap analysis and to identify all the environmental aspects and impacts of a construction site inside of one refinery of Petrobras.
Yeah. So once you've identified, what did you do?
That's it. This was my internship. I use this after, probably I have another episode saying how I identified the environmental aspect. I use this and propose this solution. But for my internship was only that, only the table.
Oh, all right. Okay. Yeah, that may be probably a little bit. It probably could be a good beginning process, a starting process, because usually the career episode is about identification of a problem and then the development of the alternatives and the solution and implementation of that. So if you just did the first bit, I think it will be here in Australia we say limping, which is mancando. Vai ficar meio.
Bamboo.
Vai ficar, é. So yeah, it can be a bit dangerous if you use that. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's it. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for your time.
But if you identified and then later on, after your internship, did you continue working there after that or not?
Yes, I was hired as environmental engineer, but the question was complex. Identify all the environmental aspects. I had to travel to Araucaria in Paraná. I had to go back to the office in São Paulo. I had to talk with all the management. So it wasn't easy. I spent 1 year doing that. So it was complex.
There is one way that now that you're saying that, there is one way. Again, it's always about what the focus is. So you can say that the engineering problem was that the company needed to identify the environmental issues.
Yeah. This was the problem.
So that if that was a problem, and then you can say, all right, to develop this one, the company has this environmental engineering problem to identify the risks that could cause environmental incidents or whatever, etc., etc., etc. And for that, you develop then different solutions, and you did research, and you interviewed people, you talked to the customers, stakeholders, you visited plant, you've analyzed processes and those sort of things, and then in the end, you solve that problem, coming up with a list of the main. You prioritize the top whatever problems, whatever, and you presented that to the bosses, and they then uh, could take over, and then they could do whatever they had to do.
Yeah,
So
thanks to that, I did the second episode.
If you define the problem as the identification of the risks and issues, yeah, that could be used.
Ah, okay. Oh, it's great. Yeah, it's great.
All right.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
That's okay. Very good. Yeah, Carla. Oh, good. Well, thank you very much for your time. And again, thank you very much for trusting my mentoring. We certainly look forward to catching up with you on the 3rd of June, when it's going to be our first live class. And we can then have a chat with more details.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gerson. Have a good one.
Okay, thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Yeah, that was Carla Bandeira, environmental engineer from Brazil, São Paulo. And yes, so a lot of interesting examples. And I will be answering some the questions that I received now during the workshop. So just going to get my notes here. And how can I do this? Sorry, Carla, I don't know how to. I think we're still sharing. And just I can't stop the sharing. Sorry, Carla, I don't know how to. I think
take your time.
I think we're still sharing.
I'm here.
Yeah, I don't know how to stop the sharing. Touching everywhere here, but it's not stopping sharing.
I will leave and I will come back.
All right then. Okay.
Just a
Thanks.
second.
Thank you. Yes. Thanks, Carla. Good. All right. Again, if you guys have any question, yeah, send in the comments. I'll be more than happy to answer some of the questions there as well. So some of the questions, more questions that I received, I'm just going to see. I don't want to repeat the questions that I already answered. This question is very interesting, and that's very common. What's the best way to write the summary statement? Yeah, summary statement. First of all, writing the summary statement is part of my mentoring program, and you guys heard about it. So I'm going to paste the link. I can't paste the link, but I'll put the link here. Validation mentoring.com. So if you're interested to learn about my mentoring program, you can access my website. The link is in my bio as well, if it doesn't work here in the comments. And it still has $600 discount, and also the 9 bonuses that are included in my mentoring program. And enrollments, they close this Sunday, 11:59 p.m. because obviously I need them to dedicate my time to my students as well. So what's the best way to write a summary statement? Well, first of all, to write a very good summary statement, you have to have a very good career episode. The summary statement is a compilation of your career episode. So if your career episode is not solid, if your career episode is not addressing the 16 competencies, you're not going to be able to write a very good summary statement. But Assuming that you have a very solid and strong career episode, to write a summary statement, and I will say again the same thing that I said uh, during the workshop. The summary statement, in my opinion, is the most difficult document that you're going to write in your validation process. Why is that? Because you need, for every one of the 16 competencies, you need to write in the middle column, you need to write why you believe you are demonstrating that competency. And then in the right-hand column, you need to number the paragraph numbers or list the paragraph numbers that are equivalent to that competency. So you need to understand very well each competency. You need then to relate that competency in your career episode and write the paragraph number. So it can be a little bit complicated. So that's why I dedicate a lot of time in my mentoring program teaching my students how to write a very good summary report or summary statement. All right. Another question here, very common as well. How can I support my experience since I have been in Australia and I have not worked as an engineer? So that's a very common question as well, because a lot of engineers, they graduate in their country and they come straight away to Australia. Or sometimes they graduate as an engineer, they don't work as an engineer. Sometimes their family has a business and they work in the family business, or they ended up working something else, or they can't get a job as an engineer and they work as another profession. And then they decide to come to Australia, and they come to Australia and they don't have work experience. And obviously, if sometimes they don't really even work as an engineer here in Australia. So how can they support this experience? The good news is that Engineers Australia does not require work experience. So you can write your career episodes, you can do your validation process according to and utilizing your academic engineering experience. So that's a good news. The other question is, that's a very, very common question as well. What do I need to do to avoid writing in my career episodes? Well, first of all, you need to avoid writing uh, things that you didn't do. The career episode is a narrative of the work that you did. So if it is a narrative of the work that you did, you need to avoid writing things that you didn't do. Why is that? Because you will need to provide evidences of what you did. And if you write about things that you didn't do, how come you're going to get evidences? Some engineers, they collect evidences from the internet. Some other engineers, they ask companies to write their career episodes. And that's all plagiarism, because it's not your work, it's not something that you did. You are claiming somebody else's work as being yours. And that is unethical behavior. And Engineers Australia will catch you, and they will impose a period of ban up to 3 years. So it's not worthwhile. I know that there's a lot of work, it's difficult to do, but at least you are not going to be caught by plagiarism if you do everything by yourself. I'm just choosing out the question here. How do I start the process to migrate to Australia? That I get that a lot of times. A lot of people they ask me questions, the same question, um, but I am not a registered migration agent. I tell this all the time. So, and because I'm not a registered migration agent, I cannot provide migration advice. So, if you want migration advice, you need to ask for a registered migration agent here in Australia. And there's plenty in the market. You know, you go to Facebook, you know, you go to Instagram. There's lots and lots of migration agents that are really good. So I am trying to bring, maybe for the next workshop, I'm trying to bring a migration agent as a guest to participate in one of the live sessions. And then you guys will be able to ask all your migration questions to the agent. And then obviously because the agent is registered, he or she can then answer all of those questions. But unfortunately, I cannot. But what I can say is that it's very important for you to do a migration plan. So consult a registered agent and come up with a migration plan, because the agent will be able to advise you what what is the better way for you to get your migration objective, and then prevents you to waste your money, to waste your time. A lot of engineers, they come here as students, they don't have a plan, they spend a lot of time and money doing one course, another course, and none of them will help them to get their visa or permanent visa, which is usually the objective of all of you guys, to get your permanent visa and live in Australia indefinitely. Uh, Another two questions and then I'll complete the live session. Yeah, that's another question here, very common. I am 40 years old, married with two kids. Do I have a chance to migrate as a civil engineer or as an engineer? Well, in terms of age, there's no age limitation for validation process. I have a student, I already mentioned that, Guilherme. He is a mechanical engineer specialized in fire protection system and air conditioning. And he was validated when he was, I think, 61 years old. His daughter is already a permanent resident in Australia, and his daughter gave him the visa as a parent visa. So he didn't really need the visa. He just wanted to validate his qualifications so he could work professionally here as a mechanical engineer. So, but that is for the validation process. For the migration, I understand there is age limitation. And again, talk to our registered migration agent. In the majority of visas, I believe from the lives that I attended with migration agents, the limit is 45 years old. So if you are 45 or older, you may have few options or fewer options to get your visa. So that's, but it's not impossible. They say that's not impossible. There is few other options. So if you are 45 or older, I strongly encourage you to talk to a migration agent and explore your options. It's not the end, but there are fewer options. But there is at least one or two or three options. Okay. This question here, and that's going to be the last one tonight. If Engineers Australia doesn't validate my process, can I try again? Well, first of all, when you submit your application, Engineers Australia will obviously evaluate, and if they are not happy with your application, they will send you first a feedback. And they're saying, yeah, thanks for your application. We need a little bit more information, or you need to resubmit these career episodes, or summary statement, or whatever other thing that they believe you need to redo. And then they'll give you 30 days for you to resubmit what they are asking. And then after 30 days, when you submit, or if you don't submit, whatever, if they're still not happy, then they're going to give you an unsuccessful outcome. And then you can ask for an informal review. That's the first process of the revision system. And then it can take sometimes 8, 10, 15 weeks. And if it's still unsuccessful, you can lodge a formal appeal, which then can take up to 9 months because they're going to put an independent panel to review that, to make that formal appeal. And if the result of the formal appeal is negative, that's final. Administratively, it's final. There's no more options. Obviously, another thing that can happen is that Engineers Australia catches you by plagiarism, and then you get a ban period. If you get a ban period, let's say 3 years, it means that you cannot apply again within 3 years. You need to wait 3 years and then you can reapply. But if you are unsuccessful because you didn't do the work that you had to do, and was not because of plagiarism, you can reapply straight away. You just need to pay everything again and obviously do something different because what you did was not good. But you can do something else and pay the fee and reapply again, as long as you don't have a ban period. If you have a ban period, then you need to wait until that ban period expires. Okay? All right. I don't believe we have any questions here. No, we don't. So if you're interested to visit my mentoring program page and get to know all the 9 bonuses and the investment and the warranty, the website is in the comments, validationmentoring.com. And the enrollments are open until Sunday, the 28th of May, 11:59 p.m. Brisbane time or 10:59 Brasilia time in the morning. All right. So thank you very much, guys. And I hope to see you in the mentoring program. See you then. Bye-bye.